happen.
Yes.
You guys met? We haven't met.
Again.
Hi, friend.
Hey.
Let's do it.
Yes,
Let's
that's
see.
me. That's me.
Here, Anderson.
Here you go.
Thank you so much for being here.
I love it. Thank you.
It's gonna be fun.
And I'm a fan.
All right, okay.
I love that.
How about a toast? You guys want?
All right, let's do the lucha.
Salucha.
What do you say in Portuguese?
Portuguese? Saúde.
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 Okay. Question. Raise your hand if you've ever had body image issues.
Not me.
You? Yes! I feel so much better. I thought it'd be so interesting to have a conversation that I have never, ever seen men have before, which is a conversation talking about our insecurities with our bodies. And I'll start, as a guy who takes his shirt off on television, I have a lot of insecurities about my body. And I figured that if I had them, other men have to have them. And I have a feeling I cause a lot of men to have insecurities about their bodies. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that we have 6 men from all different backgrounds, and maybe we can all relate about our insecurities.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing to hear men talk about.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry, if anyone.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah, you guys
I decided to
please eat.
jump in.
So are we going carb-free tonight? Or are we going all out?
I'm gonna enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy myself.
Don't worry about this. Because when I have come training, 4 months, I need to eat this, regular one, no carbo, that's it. No, because I fight in 185. When I don't have come training, I eat a lot, everything. I never take it off my shirt when I no training for fight because I'm so fat. And I say, oh, and my wife say, let's go for the beach. Okay, I go, but I don't go take it off my shirt. Never. I don't eat this because it's too much this.
Yeah.
You know, I respect because it's lifestyle, but no. You're not happy. Look, you.
Yeah.
You never smile. What happened?
No, this is lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm sort of the same. I mean, I was a personal trainer for 10 years. I competed in powerlifting. I did a bodybuilding show. But it's been always this interesting balance of like, yes, I can transform my body, but also how much of my life do I want to also just not be okay with it, right? Like, and that's so normalized that like all of us are insecure about our bodies. But I'm like, what if I actually also just met myself like in the middle or further?
Do you remember the first time you had like body image issues?
You used to like work out too. Yeah. Well, not
I
used
just
to.
got offended. You said
not-
used to work out.
You wouldn't have.
Well, I just mean like I know at one point it was like more of like your main focus in life. You know what I mean? I guess that's what I meant
think you
to
look
say.
fantastic.
But it's interesting that that is even an insult.
Right.
Or that we wouldn't take it that way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
As I
Yeah.
eat my carbs.
The fact that you have to name your carbs
Yes, exactly.
and just be like, this is bread.
You know, I was always skinny, you know, always very slim. And I got teased a lot. A lot of girls, oh, you're skinny. And that affects me. That led me to want to lift weights and eat more. Fast forward to today, I mean, that started in grade school. Today, it still affects me. I can be as mindful as I want. I'm still, you know, in the bathroom looking at myself.
I feel you there.
Yeah.
This is a pressure I feel like, an expectation to be a thing, particularly as a man, to demonstrate your strength, to demonstrate your maybe your ability as a caretaker, maybe your ability as just as a leader or whatever it is you want to attain. You've got to have this physical stature.
Every photo shoot I've ever done, it's always like, all right, we're gonna take this photo, you look all classy, and then it's like, okay, so take your shirt off. Well, I can pretty much guarantee which ones you're gonna pick.
Right. That's even on social media. I find that any post that I have that is going to be shirtless or is going to be something in that vein, thousands of likes.
Yeah.
And I post something that's like a little more thoughtful. 40.
So thank you for coming to my home gym.
Glad to be here.
So I think many of us are dealing with the Adonis complex. In your research, where did this start?
Well, it's interesting. The notion of men's relationship with their body, I mean, you can go back to Greco-Roman errors. I mean, what are the statues that we see? You know, the physical form.
Like David just ripped.
Exactly, of men. But the idea of men having a relationship with their body image, like how they feel about their bodies and their bodies as sort of this appearance kind of related tool, we didn't really start to see as much to the beginning of the early 80s. I mean, the function of a man's body has always been there. Yeah, if you think about the advertising in the 60s and 50s, it was the Marlboro Man. You know, he wasn't a ripped, muscular guy. He was masculine. You know, there was a certain ruggedness to it. But there's this huge increase in the early 80s of men without their shirts off in advertising. If you think about who the biggest Hollywood stars were in the early 80s, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, you know, these are guys with very ripped bodies. There was something about the 80s being this kind of highly, like hyper-masculinity was very big and it was very, very important. And also steroids and the accessibility to anabolic steroids just continued to increase. So now it wasn't just in your elite bodybuilding circles that anyone could start, you know, getting, and now literally anybody can get them.
How do you think the role in media plays into all of us having body image issues and insecurities?
I would say this very, very honestly. Prior to the New York Times review for Hamilton, I was very comfortable in my skin. And the very first sentence, and I'm not complaining about this, but I'm saying the impact this had on me, is Hamilton is sexy on Sundays, was the first line of my review in the New York Times. And I literally at that point went, oh, great. I won't be eating pizza. Let me cut out this from my diet. And
that was even their positive reinforcement.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, that was a compliment.
Yeah.
But it became a pressure.
Absolutely.
And then because it was an expectation.
The media, when they see me fat, they say, oh, Anderson now is not in shape, he's fat.
Body shaming.
Yeah. I say, why? Because when I go to fight, I come to shape.
And I mean, even the fact that you're an elite athlete and the pressures are still so high that they're like, despite you being one of the greatest athletes, that you also still have to look a certain, like, who gives a shit? Your body's made to do the things that it's made to do.
Literally
which
a
is
machine.
fight.
Yeah.
It's too much judge. The people just looking and, oh, you're fat. I think you're done now.
It's almost like it affects your value. Like your worth as a man
Yeah.
Absolutely.
is lessened because you have not accomplished a certain physical goal or level or whatever. And so thus you are less of a man in some way.
Yeah, I think Anderson is right. I think we have this comparing mentality that we develop. I'm not sure if it's natural. I think it's definitely societal. I mean, I don't think that we have healthy body images in this culture.
We are our will, we are our ability to abstain and to do whatever we say that we're going to do. And my body became a very interesting way of, the more I learn and the more I apply myself, the more I can see the changes. And I can walk around and everyone else can see that I work hard.
Yeah.
And everyone else can immediately see, whatever they assign to that, he can, protect himself and, and all these different things. But it's not till later that I'm sort of realizing that, like, true confidence doesn't come in knowing that I am better than someone. It's knowing that it doesn't matter if I'm better than someone.
How do you define body image? What is it?
It's a great question. So body image is different than our appearance. So appearance is a concrete objective, like I have brown eyes, I am 6 feet tall, and those sort of concrete measures. Body image is more how you feel, sort of your perception of your body, your attitudes of that body, and how you think other people sort of see that. So now when we put it in that definition, we understand that body image can have nothing to do with your appearance, because as we know from people who have body image issues, who have negative body image eating disorder, their body image is totally distorted or skewed in such a way that it has very little to do with how they actually look.
Like if someone's watching this, and whether it's a woman or a man, how do they know that they have a negative body image?
What everyone should do is really take a mindful assessment throughout the day of what their body image talk is. We all have it. So negative body image is where you notice that a lot of that self-talk is not very affirming. It's this idea that, oh, if it was just a little more of this or that, the idea that what it is not good enough on some level. If you're engaging in over-exercising, restriction of food that your body needs, certainly any binging or purging behaviors, all of those things, that use of anabolic steroids, that these things that are not healthy for your body, clearly this isn't about health now anymore. There's something wrong about the way you're seeing yourself.
And now they just download apps and then they give themselves abs and they retouch the way they look, which is real. I just found this out, by the way. There are retouch apps that you can download for your Instagram that you can then give yourself abs and like take away wrinkles.
Well, cosmetic surgery with men is exploded since probably the late 80s, early 90s. Exploded.
Thank you so much for making some time for me.
Of course.
As we're going on this journey exploring what it means to be a man, and in this episode, exploring body image, like what better place than a plastic surgeon's office, let alone someone like you who's kind of known for being like the good plastic surgeon. Like,
hopefully. I think, plastic surgery ideally should be an art form.
Yeah.
But at the same time, really good plastic surgery should be deceptive. It should take what you already have, what you should be comfortable with, and just change a slight feature, change your nose, tweak it a little bit, just to give you more confidence.
Whatever my insecurity is my whole life, if I come in and say, hey, Dr. Monty, I want you to fix this. And if you fix it, it's gonna make me more confident. And then that confidence will equal my happiness. Isn't that like just putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem?
I think it can be, but at the same time, I think, one of the keys that I look for with patients coming in is they're pretty happy with themselves in the first place, but they just see a little thing they want to tweak.
Where does that come from? Like, I think about like the standard of beauty that is set. Like, who decided that you weren't a suitable mate if you had a large nose, or if you had a unibrow, or if you had, whatever it is?
I mean, if you look at it scientifically, beauty is what's average. The most beautiful face is considered the average of all human faces. And that makes sense from an evolutionary viewpoint, in the sense that, extremes are not attractive. So, and a unibrow, obviously,
symmetry.
And symmetry is also a big thing, right? However, there was a study which I found very interesting, which I think is true. The study found that a newborn baby will actually respond to someone who's considered beautiful but asymmetric, in the same way they'll respond to someone that's beautiful and symmetric, I guess. So my theory on it, I think it's not learned. I think we have an innate sense of beauty. We can't really codify it. We can't really, academically do research and say this is beauty.
How do you guys think that body image differs between men and women? Because historically, you only hear women talk about their insecurities with their bodies, right? It's not cool for a group of guys to get together and talk about the fact that we're insecure.
Right.
So what do you think the difference is?
I think women face so many more barriers in that way, and that's not to diminish what we go through. But I am cautious sometimes when I hear people say and it's just as bad for men, and look, that's not to say one individual man couldn't have a worse experience with it than an individual woman, but as a whole, we also have to look at sort of that privilege as a man, right? Or even as a table full of guys that are considered relatively thin, right? There are people who are fat, or people of size who, might work just as hard, but might not look the way we do. And they get associated with being lazy, and they get discriminated against by their doctors who tell them to lose weight. When we consider even our health, we don't even consider the psychological aspects of it, right? Like, it might not be fully dysfunctional in that I'm binging or that I'm, purging, but like, what are the effects of a lifetime of like feeling like we can't take our shirts off? We can't just be who we are as people.
Because you're supposed to like your body. Like, you're supposed to.
That's the expectation.
Yeah, but yes, it's the expectation, and it's also what we live up to.
We're also allowed to there's less pressure on us to like our bodies flawed, even though we do have the pressures that we've all been discussing. Compared to women, we are allowed to be overweight at the pool.
Like the double standard of the dad bod, right? And that there's no female equivalent of that, because everything is seen through this male gaze, and that women have to be, a certain way that's appealing and, to us. If they don't, shave their armpit hair or something like that, God forbid, it's the worst thing in the world.
The demands on women far outweigh us. I'll never forget that I was auditioning for a production of Chicago, and I couldn't make the male call, which was at 10 a.m. So I went to the female call at noon. And I'd never done that before in my life. And I remember showing up in sweatpants, a t-shirt that I just had like cut off the sleeves, and my dance shoes, whatever, was comfortable, show up. These women are pose, this, that, contraption up here, hair, makeup, I mean, heels, they're done up. And I was like, wow. Because the expectation for them is so much higher in that room. I could show up in my pajamas.
And still get the part. Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Exactly what you were saying, right? Like, God forbid, there's a woman with a flaw. And that's so inhumane.
For me, you know, body image is not just about myself, but how do I also normalize, you know, like fat acceptance, right? And if that's what, you know, how they identify and what they just how they are, like how do we normalize the margins also that ultimately sets us free too, right? We can look at something bigger.
But I salute you for that, but I'm not even at the point. I still struggle with it so much internally that I can't even go out of my own space and try to figure out how I can love on everybody else's body image.
Right.
Like I saw the crew eating pizza and I just was like, I want some damn pizza. And then my next thought was, oh, you can't have pizza.
Yep.
I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that there's a part of me that probably like identifies my self-worth at times with how my body looks.
Sure.
Yep. Right.
So if my body doesn't look good, then there is a part of me that will feel like I am not good, or I am not worthy, or I am not man enough.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Body dysmorphic disorder, or BDD, is a body image disorder in which people have a very distorted perception of a part of their body. So it could be their skin, it could be their hair, their height, their muscle size. So their muscle size is what we call muscle dysmorphia. So men who are, by everybody's standards, by objective criteria, could be very fit and very muscular, but they look in the mirror and they think they look too scrawny, they think they might look too skinny, too puny. They just don't see the same mirror. It's sort of a reverse of how we think of anorexia. So a lot of BDD individuals, for example, if they have the financial resources, end up in a cosmetic surgeon's office before they see me. And it's only when cosmetic surgeons will no longer perform surgeries on them that they end up coming and realize it's probably a problem.
So when you just described body dysmorphia, I can't help but think that I might be part of that 1%. And that's why I'm really interested to talk to you about this, because I think there's a lot of guys like me.
The idea that, you know, by having a six-pack that all your insecurities are going to go away is not true. It's not just about, oh, how do other people see me? You have your own conception of what you're dealing with. If your self-esteem is all rested, or 90% of it is rested on the way you look, you are going to get into trouble, big trouble in your life, because you can't maintain that, you know, in that arena.
But there's this expectation, right? Because to the outside world, I'm in fantastic shape all the time. Right. People don't realize I don't walk around with a six-pack all day long. Right. Yeah. For some people, it's sustainable. I'm 33. It's not anymore, right? Oh, he looks great. Right. Oh, he's got to be confident. Right. Anderson Silva. Oh, he could pretty much kick anybody's ass.
All of us at one time.
Of the
One punch.
the billions of people. Oh yeah, he's confident in his
This
body.
is very interesting because I have a lot of problems about my voice. They say, oh, this is your real voice? Yeah, why? What happened for my voice? Because it's quiet, it's no...
So like the physical, someone's idea of who you should be based on what you look like.
Yeah, because you're like the toughest man in the entire world. You should have a deep voice. But didn't you flip it and turn it into like this whole campaign?
Yeah,
and like you made like millions
I
of
have
dollars
one
off
campaign. It's the Burger King, and I sing "Loving You." It's so definitely it's so bullying for my friends in the gym.
But they were bullying you, and so you then turned it and you made fun of yourself.
Yeah, because I think when I talk to my dad about this, my dad say, "What happened? This is your voice. This is you." And my son said, "Dad, your voice is normal. When you come angry, your voice is so strong." I say, "Okay, all right."
You seem pretty self-aware, and you seem pretty knowing that it's you, like it's more about you, right? And that like you go on diets when you're gonna fight and you don't. I don't know. I'm just curious. Do you feel like that confidence is because you've proven your masculinity by winning fights?
No.
No?
No. You know,
Because I think that's what, like, from an outside perspective, I feel like that's what it would allude to. Be like, oh, well, you know, Anderson's more confident because he kicked the crap out of many
Right.
people. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's for me it's on my mind, destroy me.
Yeah.
And I need you come down and
Yeah.
see how much this is very important or not.
So tricky, man, because I believe, I mean, we talk about spirituality.
Yeah.
You and I can go for hours about it, right? I'm a Baha'i. I believe that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Like, I believe that our bodies are just here to house our souls.
Sure.
But I also believe that our lower nature is strong, and part of the journey of being alive is to find a way to overcome that with our higher nature. And I will tell you that my lower nature is loud. Because I can know practically that my body is just
Sure.
it's a vessel, it's a vehicle,
Yeah.
but it doesn't change the fact that I still identify so much of my worth as a man with the way that I look. So I'm now a part of the problem,
Right.
but I'm also suffering.
Yes. Yeah.
As a man, I go, well, is that what women want? Like, is that what other? If I go think about myself and why I do the things that I do, I don't know if I'm doing it for men or if I'm doing it for women or if I'm doing it for my wife or if I'm doing it for myself. I don't even know why I'm doing it anymore.
Well, this is that's one of the things I looked at in one of the research studies I did, where I developed this computer program where basically you can click on an image and make the image more or less muscular and then more or less fat, so in both dimensions. And we actually asked guys what their ideal was, and then we asked women what their ideal of the male body was. Now, we had wondered whether it was going to be that men's ideal was what they thought, for heterosexual men, that their ideal would be what they thought women wanted in men. And it turns out it has nothing to do with women, that actually men's ideal far surpass, like statistically surpass, what women actually preferred in men. And the reverse of that is true for women as well, that women think men want them to be a lot thinner, that men in fact prefer the female body to be. So we are not doing it, we're really, in a sense, now the biggest predictor though of how muscular a man wanted to be, what his ideal was actually based on how muscular he thought the average guy is. So there's something about the way that men are sort of competing with each other to be, whether it's being the biggest guy in the room, the most masculine guy in the room, the alpha male. It has less to do with what women want, and it's more, the patients that I work with, they'll actually have women say, you're a good looking guy, and they don't see it. You know, so
I relate to that too.
you're now getting that. But if you're not internalizing it, now the question is, what is this all for?
So if I just walked in, what do you think I would want done?
The first question I ask when someone comes in for a consultation, and I'll ask that of you right now, what's bothering you? What do you want?
When I was 10, we moved to Oregon, and everybody was really white, right? Like the blonde hair and the blue eyes. And so I think I was always really insecure about my nose. If I was living in a different world where I didn't know anybody, would I want to see what it would be like to have more of an American nose or less prominent certain features, right?
I would say turn to the side just for now so I can see.
And this is my bad side.
Okay, all right. Okay, now turn the other way. You know, I think we'll look at the Photoshop, but yeah, I would do it. I would probably, but I would be very conservative.
Can I ask an ignorant question?
Please.
As a straight man, I've noticed that it seems like a lot of the gay men I know focus so much on their to almost like a hyper masculine appearance.
Yep.
What's the relationship, do you think, in the gay community with body image?
I think there's a number of things that go into that. I think the first pressure for gay men is safety. As a gay man, if you're by yourself and you're in certain contexts where maybe you are not welcome, are you the size that this one particular person who wants to start something with you that they can take, or are you so big that they're going to think twice? Right. So there's a safety issue about that, right? There's also the fact that gay has been viewed as less for so long. So if you're viewed as inferior, then suddenly there's a pressure to have perfect skin, perfect teeth, perfect hair, impeccable clothing, perfect shape. I'm always prepared. You know all the answers. You can't diminish me now.
So no one can point at you and say, "Oh, look."
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the gay guy who's
Because
XYZ.
of that identity.
Right. Also, on top of that, there's the era of the 80s of when AIDS and HIV became entered our population, and that, I mean, as an HIV positive man, I can tell you firsthand within my own community, when I first was diagnosed, I was so disgusted by the other gay men, very cruel towards me. I was immediately rejected. Like, didn't want to even know if I
Even
was
in your own community.
right.
Wow.
There was a stigma attached to it because of the weight loss, because of what the virus did to you when it transitioned into AIDS from HIV and diminished your body weight, et cetera, et cetera. So there became this need to look a certain way, so you looked healthy, so you were someone who was going to find a possible partner.
Right.
You know, so that's another level of this. And I experienced that firsthand. I mean, on a separate note, that's why I'm so open about it, right? Because going back to that New York Times article that starts with Hamilton is sexy on Sundays, to me it was like, great. Because now you're going to associate sexy with an HIV positive man. So that's got to shatter some windows somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So,
But still, it still made you feel
yeah, I still
insecure and you have the pressure.
Absolutely, which even more so, you know?
That's a lot of conflicting feelings.
It's totally, yeah. You know,
Whoa.
it's a three-ring circus up here. But I even hate saying it. But
I got you. Listen, I saw the show. I was like, that Hamilton sexy.
Put the pressure on him, Justin.
but all of that to say, now it's sort of just a norm, right? We've normalized it. It's just if you're gay, you have to look like this. It doesn't help that media perpetuates it.
And for you, I think it's a little bit different for the rest of us because, I mean, your thing is your body.
Yes.
Like, you are was it Men's Fitness or Men's Health?
Men's Health.
You are a Men's Health cover model.
Yeah.
So your whole, like, your world is your body.
Yes, but it's the saddest part is that when I was on the cover of Men's Health magazine, I think I was probably at my worst relationship with my body and the worst relationship with food.
Wow.
And
Do you feel insecure while being on the cover of Men's Health?
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
Which is wild,
For sure,
right?
yeah. And like being, you know, so I'm transgender, so I'm born female, right? And so I have to really, I related to you when you were like, being a gay man, you have to do this. Like, for me, when I transitioned into male, it was like, okay, I'm gonna start working out because if I go into a bar and this guy over here doesn't like my choices, if he sees that I'm muscular, maybe he'll think twice about coming at me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Pure safety.
Yeah.
I get chills because it was so true. You know, this was back in 2009. You didn't have Liver and Cox. You didn't have anybody out there, advertising really their identity. And so, like, now I've got this guy a foot taller than me, 100 pounds bigger than me, and I've got to size myself up to him. You know what I mean? And so having a perfect body, and like you said, I find myself criticizing how good of a man I am all the time because it's like, well, I've got to be perfect because if I'm not perfect, then someone's gonna point at it and be like, well, that's why you're not a man because of this, that, or that.
How did your childhood, I guess as a woman, affect your body image now as a man?
I think I have a lot of internalized, which I'm trying to work on, right? But I think I have a lot of internalized self-hatred for the female body that I was born into. Like I'm always comparing my hip size to other guys. Meanwhile, like I see guys with big hips all day long, but I know that they're biologically born a male. So I'm like, well, that's okay. But for some reason, for me, it's not. It's not okay for me to have wider hips or to not, everyone's got the taper, right? Everyone wants that taper, right? And it's like, I'll never get the taper because my hips are this.
Right.
So it'll always be like this. Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting battle to integrate because I was identified as female for 21 years of my life, you know what I mean? And so my masculinity is constantly questioned, constantly over and over. And so I find myself having to prove it to other people and then it makes me question it myself.
If you look at, all of those exercise muscle magazines, there's always a mention of masculinity in there. Be a better man, be a bigger man for her, be, better in bed. This idea that building a body is sort of your duty, in a sense, is to be more masculine. So we need models of showing, that there are entrepreneurs who are strong, there are doctors that are strong, there are bodybuilders who are strong, and athletes who are strong. That there are many models of masculinity that convey assertiveness and convey strength and convey all of those things rather than having to be at the gym 5 hours a day. We have to pay attention to the language we use for boys who are hearing this language. It's perfectly known now how important it is of how we have to talk about body image when we have daughters. Every parent is sort of more aware of that, but with sons, we're still not there yet.
My wife's pregnant, 7 months pregnant, so we're gonna have a son. One of the things I'm worried about is the unrealistic expectation that media and social media is placing on young boys, pre-teen boys, and also men. I mean, I know I feel it. I follow some of these super ripped, I follow you, but I follow some of these super ripped dudes on Instagram that are just constantly posting videos of themselves working out, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do that. I see them just super shredded, and all it does is make me feel like I'm not enough.
It all comes with what we identify as. Where do you get if you get your self-worth from your body, this car that is constantly degrading, and eventually it ain't gonna be an Instagram filter that will be able to cover the wrinkles. And if you identify as this, you're gonna have a life of misery. But if you just see this, all right, I have this body, I have to take care of it. It's not me.
Right.
I have the body, I'm not this body, then you're okay. But if you constantly, oh, this is me, you're just gonna have a lifetime of suffering. Our culture doesn't push that because it's not profitable.
So
magazines,
so man to man, are you there though?
I'm there when I'm here, when I'm aware of, I'm in this moment, and I'm not thinking about the future of this. When I'm here, then yeah. But the thoughts are gonna come. If I walk past a mirror, I'm gonna look, and that's okay. That's just the mind doing its tricks. That's okay. But when that thought starts to create suffering for me on a daily basis, that's when it's an issue.
Well, that's like the self-awareness you have. When you can have conversations like we're trying to have right now and be vulnerable and try to put that self-awareness on the table. I feel like I was a lot, like you were saying with the pizza, I used to be a lot more like that. But what would happen if you ate the piece of pizza? What if we just had like 1 slice on Tuesday, 2 slices on Friday? Yeah, believe me, I still am trying to, embody this myself. But I think, again, it's that self-awareness piece. It's like, can you look in the mirror and when you hear that bad thought, do you believe it? Or do you know that there's a part of you, that wants to love yourself?
I have fallen into that trap of I've got that cheat day and that's all it's gonna be. And if it happens on any other day, then I've failed.
Oh my God.
And that's literally what the language became.
And then the shame comes.
And you might as well have the whole
right?
fucking
Yeah, just go in.
I've blown it.
Just
right?
go in.
What I want to tie together is exactly what you're saying, that self-awareness and the being alone and that peace by yourself. It is that thing. It's that connection to the self-awareness. It's finding you're just calm in your skin, and then not being so damn harsh. That's the last step that I'm finally coming to.
Yeah.
Of like not punishing myself if I break the system I've developed.
We live in a culture that is sexist, that is racist, that is transphobic, and has normalized all these things. The studies show that you cannot be free of that, because things are normalized that we can't even know are normalized right now, right? So accepting that I'm on that journey, and the best thing that I can do is to re-educate myself, be conscious of the media I choose. I don't follow people, aspirational body people, because I think that just puts me in a bad place.
I'm gonna start taking off my shirt for you.
Is that you can start taking it off? See, I don't think I want that. I think it probably feel bad about it.
This is for you, Matt.
Yeah, this is for you. Do some really manipulative shit, man.
Do a boomerang so it's like off and on.
Yeah, exactly.
Off and on, off and on.
I've learned, I think, at a later age, the importance of being open and vulnerable and protecting women. And I was a destructive force, I think, when I was a young boy. And now, the more I dig into my own psyche, the more I realize how messed up I am. like from the way I see myself and my relationship with my body. And now I'm gonna have a little boy who's gonna look at everything that I do, right?
He will.
And if he's looking at daddy who's measuring his calories, or he's doing cardio in the morning, or he's fasting for half the day, what am I saying to him?
Right.
You know, am I hurting his confidence from the beginning? Am I saying that, you know, he has to grow up and look like me, and if he doesn't, he's not enough of a man? This stuff's terrifying.
How will you talk about that? Because that will be very important. So when I train, when I go to the gym, I'll make sure to tell them, let's say on the days that I don't feel like just training that day, I'm certainly not going to miss my child's piano recital to go to the gym, you know, and making that clear that there are lots of important things in my life and priorities in my life. And this is something that is important to me, but does not take precedent over my health, over, you know, sacrificing sleep or my work, and certainly nothing comes before my kids.
So focusing on health.
Balance.
Health and balance.
And worth, because he'll pay attention to what does daddy think of himself, period.
Everything that you're saying is exactly like what I want to prescribe to and what I believe in. And I haven't heard it out loud. So like, I'm just like taking it in because I don't want to mess up my son. You know, I don't want to mess up my daughter. It's a real fear because I don't want my son to be just like me. I want my son to be better than me. Do you guys ever look in the mirror and see something completely different than what the world sees?
All the time. I literally like look in the mirror and see my flaws. That's and I've become so conscious of it that I now am trying to, because you know everything's an exercise, right? Like retrain myself to, when I look in the mirror, see one thing that I can compliment myself with. Oh, Javier, that looks really good today. Now you can beat yourself up, you know, and maybe that's going to become 2, maybe it's going to become 3, but.
You know, when I looked in the mirror a while ago, and I was definitely seeing something in the mirror that other people didn't see. You know, people say, you know, you're big enough already. It was only till years later, I'm looking back at my old pictures, I'm like, yo, your head is way too small for your body. That don't even...
Right. That's amazing.
It don't even look good.
You know, but like it's a lifelong process, and we're never going to be at the end, particularly in a society that really teaches us all these things. So how do we be gentle with ourselves, but also let me not convince myself that like that's better.
Yeah.
Or even like, you know, that I hate the term like, oh, I'm in better shape. Better than what? You know what I mean? What makes that better?
You know, I feel you on that.
Those small moments of just expanding outside that boundary of comfort. In the same way, it's vulnerability, right? That's
Totally
all
that.
comes
It's
back to that.
and at its core, I think it's being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
That's it.
As men, as we attempt to be more vulnerable, as we have these conversations, how can we be comfortable in the uncomfortable?
You could do that. You could do that.
So the one side does look a little bit different.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a little bit. Not that anyone but you would notice. The reason it looks different is because of the septum being deviated over to that side, right?
I do have a bad side.
It's not let's say you have a good side and a less good side, we'll say. Or maybe something like that. I think it's, you know, too subtle to really say I'm going to do that.
Let's see.
What do you think?
You know what? Let's see if my wife can tell the difference.
Let's see if this is...
He looks happier.
Seem nicer.
He seems nicer. He seems nicer. Hey, babe. Can I have your mama for a second, Maya? Hey, can you here? Look, just look at a picture for me.
Can I look at a picture for you?
Yeah.
Look what we did.
Can you tell a difference?
You've done something to your nose.
But isn't it great?
No, it isn't. I like your nose, baby.
You don't like it?
No, because it's not you. I can tell that you've done something.
Well, there's what it is now.
Awesome, baby.
That's the difference. That's before.
I know, and I love that.
So
I've done very well, thank you.
Good.
I just love your face the way it is.
I'm gonna have some bandages when we go to Hawaii.
No.
Yeah.
And when you come back, well, we can reverse it.
He said it's only a week.
Reverse it.
It's only a week of downtime.
Only half price.
I will not let you.
That's why I married you. I love you.
Okay.
Bye.
Have fun. I love you. Bye.
Okay, let's do it.
There we go.
Let's do it. All right. So I want to focus on the positive.
Yeah.
And we can each go here. What is one thing you love about your body?
How much time you got, actually?
Love it. I'm gonna have the opposite answer.
No, you know, the back, the wings. You know, the back.
You like the wings?
I can spread it. Yeah, it's nice and it's strong. Yeah.
What about you?
My eyes and my eyebrows. This right here.
I almost don't want to answer the physical because I almost feel like I should be thinking about some other aspect of it. But my lips, and I think I never really was into that because that's not like, I think as a man, that's not something that like.
It's not manly to have puffy, beautiful lips.
Yeah, and to have people be like, oh, what nice lips you have. Like, I don't have lips. I have no lips at all. You know what I mean? Like, also like my lips are not like reflective of my masculinity or my ability to exert my control over my body. You know, I was like, I wanted it to be over the other thing.
Right. I think my legs. Well, because when I broke my leg in a fight, 1 year I just stay pain all day, all night. I cry. I just, oh my gosh. I never go back to walking again. I never go back to training again. And I just see the people walking. Normally I say, oh my gosh, I need you back.
You never appreciated
back
your legs so
working.
much.
I need you back to. When I look my legs, I say, yeah, I'm skinny, but I love it. Yeah.
I like my chest because being born female, having breast tissue that had to be removed, I feel very proud that, you know, I have scars across my chest, but I feel very proud of them. I feel like, you know, as much as you may not like parts of your body now, you like them so much more than when you were in a body that did not represent your identity truly.
What about you, Jess?
You know, it's so funny. So I asked the question, and my first initial response is like, I can't think of something. But if I strip away the like ego of the things that I want to improve, I think I got a nice ass.
There it is.
How about that? So with that, to your eyes and eyebrows, to your wings,
Yo, pouty lips.
What do you mean, what was mine?
Anderson,
legs.
to your legs, and to your chest,
Yes.
and to my ass.
And to your ass.
To be in man.
All right, who's taking these home?
Go for it. We got new friends.
Oh my gosh.